Hey everybody from the nodejs JXcore community. This is my shared memory proposal presentation. Basically, let's get started. So what is shared memory? Is a memory that may be simultaneously accessed by multiple programs or cores with an intent to provide communication among them, or to avoid redundant copies. Now, one thing in Node.js is IPC is basically a redundant copy of your data, especially when the IPC JSON stringifies every single freaking string or text or data or array or anything that goes through it. It gets JSON stringified over and over and over again. If you have a 500 kilobyte object and you're sending that through IPC to different processors, that's 500 kilobytes, boom, boom, back and forth. It's not ideal. It's actually horrible. It decreases performance, and it shouldn't be used unless you're going to have a stateless CPU connection. Now, one of the limitations of Node.js is that they're single-threaded, obviously. The only way to use multiple cores in a processor is to run multiple processes. But when you're working on different memory spaces, so it doesn't really help that much unless you want multiple processes working on the same memory block. This is required in memory-intensive tasks that cannot be efficiently sharded. So this is exactly where shared memory comes into play. And my next slide is the positive effects, okay? You're going to be utilizing multiple cores. Obviously, you have an 8-core server. The server is going to be in heaven. Not all the event loop isn't going to be bound to one freaking core. It's going to be bound. It's going to have the ability to access any core that you want it to work on. Utilize multiple cores. Easeability. The user does not need to install Node GYP and other VC++ dependencies if they're on Windows. They don't need a Node GYP tool chain. Don't need anything. If it's added into the core, you can add one line of code in your app. Boom. You got shared memory. No need for in-storage memory databases like Memcache or Redis. Now, this is basically true if you're not sending data across machines or networks. Saves memory usage by not sending data through IPC/threads. Well, I might remove threads, but it's mostly through IPC. Like I said before, if you have a 500 kilobyte object that's being sent through IPC back and forth again, JSON stringified. It's not. No. It decreases performance if you think about it. It just I don't like it. Increase application performance by freeing up the event loop. As I said, you have a large memory intensive app. And let's say you have a set timeout or a set interval running every 1300 milliseconds, okay? And it's doing monster AI synchronization, okay? Every 1300 milliseconds, which is 1 second and 300 milliseconds, it's synchronizing all the players and all the maps, all the objects, boom, 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 boom. Now, while this loop is running, if you have another player, let's say, attacking a monster, and I don't know, 5 players join the game, and now there's 6 players. Now there's 6 players in that instance, and everybody's attacking one monster, and it's going crazy. There's a whole bunch of loot getting a loot coming out from the mobs that they're killing. They're getting a whole bunch of XP and all this shit. Guess what's happening? Every 1300 seconds, the event loop is just getting hammered. Why can't that loop get on another processor? Why? That loop should be able to go on another processor, and then use that loop on that other processor with object references, so we don't have to be passing shit through the IPC all the time. That's another issue. Another positive, the ability to utilize multiple cores with object references. I'm going to show that at the end of the slide. Some negatives, higher memory usage. RAM is so cheap though. Who cares? RAM buffers are higher. V8's garbage collector might not work with certain allocated memory. This needs testing. Obviously, that's why the developers of Node.js and JXcore will do, because they're smart. But I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure it's going to be one instance, but well, I mean, it's going to be multiple V8 instances, but it's going to be shared memory. But I'm pretty sure the garbage collector will be fine. Real-world examples. Game servers that utilize high concurrent WebSocket synchronization. Monster and game AI. Checking the position of players. Sending players, as I said. Basically, this screenshot right here, you got a bunch of players in this game. They're killing this mob. All this data, but they have this separate event. They have this separate timer that runs every 1300 milliseconds that does all this MU synchronization to update the monsters in the map. That event loop needs to be loaded off to another processor so it can have it can do whatever, it can utilize all that processing power and have all those object references in it, and that would free up the event loop a lot for the game or for any high load CPU intensive apps. here we go. This is right down to the core. Object references are not possible through multiple cores using IPC. For example, this user's object with the property results bracket notation 0.id. Let's say that's 2 for this example. So user's ID 2 is stored in the memory buffer in the object users. If I want to send, I'm using, okay, let me back up a little bit. I'm using the WebSocket npm module, okay? If I want to pass the WebSocket connection to this object through IPC, it's not going to happen. Object references cannot be passed through IPC. Why? JSON stringifies is what happens, and it's another V8 instance, and the memory is not shared, so it's not going to work. If shared memory is possible, I don't have to send anything through IPC. This object reference right here will work just fine on any other core. I can have 8 cores utilizing this object, and the references will work. That's what we need. And what we have already, we have one add-on by Varanasari that works only on Linux, but it's not tested. I don't know if the official Node.js or JXcore developer is going to see, or we're going to look at the source code and see if they can implement that into the core, which I hope they can. It's actually written in C++, which I think all Node.js add-ons are, but it's actually really nicely written, and I think if one of the JXcores or Node.js developers see this video, maybe they can take a look at that source code. I think it's MIT license. Maybe they can incorporate it into the core of Node.js. I'm not sure, but they're both Linux only. It would be nice if we could get a shared memory module implementation into the core that works on Windows too, because a lot of developers are developing on Windows, and it's a pain in the ass to switch to Linux and back and forth. You guys all know that. But basically, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I really do hope you guys implement shared memory into the core. I think I gave some really good real-world examples here, and have a wonderful day.